In November 1967, Cream released Disraeli Gears, one of the best albums released that year, and probably Cream's finest hour. Later that month, Record Mirror wrote an article about the album and interviewed Eric Clapton. The magazine asked Clapton to comment on each track from the album. This is what he had to say. Actually, we recorded this about 2 weeks before we cut the other tracks, just for a single. However, someone decided it should go on the LP as well. A lot of it has been derived from the work of Albert King, the blues guitarist. This was written by Jack and me, and Pete Brown. It's a pop stage number that we do. Peter is a poet who wrote our first record, Wrapping Paper, and he writes most of the lyrics for our songs.
Do you remember?
This number was written by Felix Pappalardi. He produced the album. It's about a tree in his back garden in New York. He came to us one day and asked us if we liked the number, so we recorded it. It's one of my favorite tracks. This is Jack's composition. It's a tribute to the Byrds with 12-string guitars and everything. We admire them tremendously as musicians, and they are also friends of ours. We arranged the number to sound like them. David Crosby, who left the Byrds recently, told us he liked it very much. In fact, he was very pleased with the whole LP.
Take the wrong direction.
This is Ginger's number. He wrote it, and it's the track where he sings for the first time. It's his singing debut, in fact. We insisted that he write a number and sing on it on the album. We all think it's really nice. He's very extreme with his dialect, very English. He sounds like an English Dylan. My flatmate Martin wrote the words to this. We went into the studio with just the lyrics, and I wrote the music and made a rough arrangement in about an hour in the studio. He is very fond of the Mediterranean islands, and he wrote the song last winter in his cold room, wishing he were out in the sun. She was like a bearded rainbow. That's the full title of this. It has a typical Pete Brown lyric. And Jack wrote the music. This was originally going to be released as a single. This is a ballad which Jack wrote. He based it on the Fade Out on Summertime, in the musical Porgy and Bess. This is one of my choices. On each LP I do, I try and make sure that I can include a number by an old bluesman. This is to help them out by getting them some royalties. And it's also good for us because we like to take old blues numbers and adapt them to our style. Blind Joe Reynolds originally wrote and recorded this in 1927.
I got this need, the need to stay alive.
This is Jack's thing about vaudeville. He's got a vaudevillian sense of humor. And this has got double meaning lyrics and everything.
Baby had gone, and in anguish she cried.
This was accidental. At the end of every session, we have a little laugh by sitting round the piano and doing a mock English pub thing. Weird. We had a laugh with this one, but it wasn't meant to be anything. We were told that it had been recorded, and they wanted to put it on the album. The album was a critical success, with most reviewers agreeing that it was much better than their debut album Fresh Cream. However, not everyone was happy about the album. A reader called Steve Thomas wrote a letter to the Melody Maker, and he was definitely not happy about it. The reader wrote,
"What are the Cream trying to do? Disraeli Gears must be one of the worst records a British group has ever made. Releasing an LP with both sides of their single included reduces the tracks to 8 for most fans. And Take It Back sounds as if it was recorded at the nearest swimming baths. It is an insult to Cream fans."
Coincidentally enough, that same issue of the Melody Maker featured an interview with Eric Clapton, in which he claimed that Cream didn't want to release any more singles. Clapton said, "The main reason for not wanting to do them is that we are very anti the whole commercial market. I'm a great believer in the theory that singles are an anachronism, and LPs will take their place. They will be extended LPs at 16 revolutions per minute lasting 2 to 3 hours. To get any good music in a space of 2 or 3 minutes requires working through a formula, and that part of the pop scene leaves me cold. On the other hand, if we went into the studio to do something for an LP that came out short and compact, we could still release it as a single. But really, singles are horribly out of date. Unless you have number one after number one, you don't make a lot of money on singles anyway. I can't criticize the Melody Maker because they are the fairest of all the papers. But even so, when a group gets in the chart, you immediately get the bass guitarist in blind date. You are allocated publicity according to the acceptance of your latest single. The whole music scene in Britain is ruled by the chart, and people are brainwashed into thinking that the number one record represents the best music available. It's horribly immature, and it's got to go. Clapton was also asked about Cream's new album. Eric said, "It's a good record, a good LP, but it was recorded last May and it's not really indicative of what we're doing now. I feel like I'm listening to another group when I hear it. It's an LP of songs and there is no extended improvisation anywhere. That's the reason why we are rushing to do our next album, which we will record in America and we hope we'll have it out at Christmas." The title comes from a pun that our road manager made when we were talking about racing cycles. Do you know anything about racing bikes? Well, they have gears called Disraeli Gears. Our manager was trying to pretend he knew all about them, but he called them Disraeli Gears. I thought it sounded great, so we put it on the album. The album was a success. It reached number 5 on the UK albums chart, and was listed as the number 1 album of 1968 by Cashbox, in the year-end album chart in the United States.